Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. A number of heavyweights had a down year in 2019, some of it down to inactivity, illness, out-of-the-ring hijinks, various reasons, a myriad of reasons, and also for Andy Ruiz Jr, he ate himself out of his heavyweight title, so he's covered in this video, and about 4 or 5 others too. And to steal a line from Keith Thurman, who entered his 2019 saying he needed a get-back year, these heavyweights that I'm covering in this video, they certainly need their own get-back year. And we'll start with Joseph Parker, the former WBO champion, who until 2018 was unbeaten, had the WBO strap, unifies with Anthony Joshua, but loses the belt, loses to Dillian Whyte, and pretty much since then, in mid-2018, really hasn't been cited too much since. Just the 2 tune-up fights in the intervening 18 months, one against Alexander Flores, and then mid-2019 there was one against Alex Leapai. And a couple of times in 2019, Parker could have fought Derek Chisora, the first time for April, which was penciled in. Didn't like the training camp time, didn't pull the trigger. Later in the year, a suspected spider bite ruined what would have been an October fight with Chisora. And Chisora himself seemingly is the benefactor of that because of a couple of fights he was in 2019 with Artis Bilka and David Price. He's got enough sort of shine from that to get fans believing that he can contend at the next level, potentially for a title. And he looks like he might get a fight against Alexander Usyk. And for Joseph Parker, he's on the outside looking in. Sort of disappointing situation for himself and for his fans, but it is what it is. Illness and also not making that earlier fight in 2019, it's cost Joseph Parker just the one fight in the past year, and he really hasn't been in a real proper tough fight for 18 months now. He's scheduled to come back in February 2020, but at about 7 weeks' notice, we haven't had the opponent. Maybe it won't be anyone good, but he certainly needs a get-back year. He needs to solidify himself as a top heavyweight in the division. Although his rankings haven't necessarily suffered, his stock with fans has to some extent because of out of sight, out of mind. It's just gone down a bit in a lot of fans' minds. I've certainly seen it in different comment sections, different videos that I've done in the past sort of 6 to 12 months, while Joseph Parker has been sort of off the scene, as it were. So he definitely needs a get-back year, and he's got 2 fights left on his 3-fight matchroom deal. They're paying him a boatload of money, reportedly somewhere around $3 million New Zealand for the 3 fights. That was a figure that was quoted some time ago. So I'm sure Eddie Hearn will want to get some value from Parker, one of the better heavyweights in the matchroom stable. Hopefully he gets a tough test at some point. If it's not going to be for a title, it needs to be a meaningful fight. He needs to stay ready so he doesn't have to get ready when a title opportunity does come his way. The next guy, Jarrell Big Baby Miller. If there was ever a heavyweight after 2019 that needed a get-back year, it's him. He was generally regarded as a top 10 fighter before he failed 3 doping tests ahead of what would have been his scheduled fight with Anthony Joshua. He gives up millions of dollars and the opportunity ultimately taken by Andy Ruiz Jr, who beats Joshua. So Ruiz Jr gained from Jarrell Miller's misfortune, or should I say his stupidity. He was more hopped up than a herd of Mexican cattle. So Miller, what does he do now? Because he's not with a big promotional stable on any sort of co-promotional basis at the moment. He's co-promoted by Greg Cohen and Dimitri Salita. Both of them work with the different various promotional outfits. There was a lot of talk and chatter that he was due to sign a deal with Top Rank, but it never officially got announced. So no idea where that sort of went to. But if he's not with Top Rank, he's not with DAZN or Matchroom in the UK or PBC, he's on the outside looking in. He's a guy that Eddie Hearn has described as expensive. Miller wants big time money for his services, but his stock is down at the moment. And how long will it be before a promotional outfit takes a chance on Jarrell Miller? He actually hasn't been in the ring for over a year now. He didn't have a fight in 2019. He's inactive. So what will happen next for Miller? Who will take a punt on him? Or will they just have to organise some sort of lower level fight just to tick him over? Or will he wait for a golden goose type fight? And that was something he did ahead of landing the Anthony Joshua fight. People forget his fights ahead of that were a faded Thomas Adamek and Bogdan Dinu. So 2020 is going to be an interesting sort of year for Jarrell Miller. At the moment, is he damaged goods? Who will take a punt on him? And the next guy, Andy Ruiz Jr. Clearly, we know he had a bad December against Anthony Joshua, lost his titles. He ate himself to 283 pounds in the final weeks of his training camp, wasn't training hard enough, has made all sorts of excuses after his loss to Anthony Joshua, not really giving Joshua a lot of credit for the win, more placing it on him and what he did or didn't do rather in his training camp. So if there's anyone like Jarrell Miller who needs a get back here, it's Andy Ruiz Jr. because he's got a lot to prove to fans, I believe. He obviously needs to come in better shape for his next fight, if in fact he's going to come back in 2020 at all. But when he does come back, even if it's not this year, if it ends up being 2021, if he takes a full year out like he did after the Joseph Parker fight, he needs to come in condition that we've seen him before. Ruiz is never going to be the body beautiful, but he can be in better condition. Somewhere between 250 and 260 seems to be a good wheelhouse for him. He was 268 pounds for Anthony Joshua, which was heavy for the first fight, but he still got the job done. So he at least needs to be that or a bit lighter. It'll be interesting to see what the situation is with his trainer, Manny Robles, who he's pretty much hasn't had any contact with since after the fight. Whether Robles will end up being some sort of fall guy later this year, who knows? But Andy Ruiz Jr., his stock definitely plummeted with fans because of his own actions. He needs a good get-back year. And I would like to see him back in the ring sooner rather than later, because the more it drags on, who knows if he will ever come back or if he will come back motivated, especially when he's got the best part of $20 million from the two fights. Agit Kabayel, he is a heavyweight who was on the rise after beating Derek Chisora in late 2017. But since then, just a couple of fights. And in 2019, just one fight. It was a good win against Andrei Rudenko. But for the rest of 2019, inactive. But I do have some hope that now that he's signed on a co-promotional deal with ESPN and Top Rank, along with his current promoter, SES Boxing, that he will actually get some more exposure and bigger fights. I think the sort of fights that SES can no longer provide him. There could be in the offing this year, potential fights within the Top Rank stable, at least of Bryant Jennings or Carlos Takam. I could see those fights being made for Agit Kabayel. And I do have some hope that this will be a good year in 2020 for Agit Kabayel. I think by the end of the year, his standing within the heavyweight division will be much enhanced because of performances in the ring and in front of a broader audience because he'll be fighting in the United States. And a couple of prospects I also wanted to mention because very talented, but seemingly dropped off the map to some extent in 2019. Ivan Dychko, he really stands out to me. Dychko won bronze at the Rio Games and also at London. He's 9-0 at the moment, only 2 fights in 2019, but seemingly either management issues or matchmaking issues, it just hasn't clicked for Dychko. He's 6'9", and you just don't teach that sort of height. He's got a lot of very good attributes. He's a very good boxer, but seemingly his pro career has been going nowhere fast. So hopefully 2020 can be a year where he is back on track and seemingly getting closer to where some of his 2016 Rio peers have been getting to. Because remember, Ifeah Jagba, Joe Joyce, Filip Hrgovic, Tony Yoka, all Olympians from 2016 have made a much better fist of it in the pros so far, at least in terms of opponents, wins, hype, profile in general, than Dychko has. So hopefully for his sake, he can make it a better 2020. 29 years old, should be coming into his prime now. And a couple of guys who are in my top 10 prospects to watch in 2019, Petar Milas and Vlad Sirenko. For some reason, the momentum for both those guys slowed considerably in 2019 after good 2018s. So hopefully they can get things back on track. And another guy I'll have as an honorable mention here because it was the biggest vanishing act of 2019, Rostislav Klitschko. 13 fights, 13 first-round knockouts. but he just disappeared. And who knows what is going on with him. And I follow him on social media, and he does train quite often, and he's posting clips and other bits and pieces. But seemingly he's also, living a party boy lifestyle to some extent. So who knows what's going on with him. But if he's coming back, he's an exciting addition to the heavyweight division. What do you make of it all? Who, in your view, needs the biggest get-back year? Is it Joseph Parker, Agit Kabayel, Andy Ruiz Jr., Jarrell Miller, or someone else? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.